And we are live. Welcome, everyone. My name is Niki Lopez of Niki Lopez Creative, and you're watching The Circle, where every Tuesday, 8:30 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'm talking to artists, activists, social entrepreneurs, people doing great things in the world today. And today I have a very special guest. I have fine art photographer Tokie Rome Taylor. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me, Nikki. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. And, just before we get into everything, I have to say, I have an assistant that I'm working with, Seattle, and I just have to give her a shout out because I was just like, oh my God, you have to see her work. It's amazing. I love her images. I'm like stalking you on Instagram. And she was like, so you want me in the circle? And I was like, well, I don't know. I don't really know her. She was like, say less. And I was like, then she gave me this stuff, and I'm just so grateful for her work and for you to be here. I'm really just excited about it. So thank you.
You're so welcome. And I'm super really, I'm here.
Yes. So we are live right now in a few places. So we're on Facebook. We're live on Niki Lopez Creative. We're live on Outclick Magazine, on my profile, and the group The Circle. So remember, if you're in The Circle, if you post a comment, I can't see your name, so put the name if you see it. We're also on YouTube and Periscope. So jumping in. So Tokie is a fine art photographer, educator, and speaker. And I'm just going to go ahead and read her statement. So, got a little statement, so I love to read those. Tokie Rome Taylor focuses on the representation of Black bodies, striving to psychologically shift the internal narrative of the viewers of her artwork towards acceptance, expanded perception, and expectation. She is interested in exploring the concept of vessels and objects, artifacts as a means of layered cultural symbolism while acting as a conduit of memory. Her portraits evoke a mystical sense of different time and place. Themes of adornment, memory, spirituality, and time are prevalent in her work. Her subjects are inserted into the past of an alternate reality, creating the narrative of them being their ancestors in the present for their heirs to see in the future. These ancestors embody power over destiny, representation, and spirit, influencing the viewer as their descendants. Woo!
Don't worry.
That's
the gist of it.
Okay, but I love it. So we're just gonna pop right in. We have a couple people. We have Sylvia. She's almost always on the live saying hello to Niki and guests.
Welcome, Sylvia.
Yes, welcome. So I'm gonna open up the stream a little bit to show some of your work, and we could just get into some of the questions here. And we have Natalie, also a foreign photographer. I told her she's got to be on here. You got to be on here. So while we're opening up the work, one of the things I wanted to ask you is what was the spark that inspired your creative journey?
Well, I've been an educator for, at this point, 22 years. And during that time, I was teaching photography, I was teaching art history, and I was doing all this work in preparing future artists, but I wasn't pouring into myself. And then I got married, I started having kids. I had my last child, and meanwhile, in the background, my sister, Sashi Rome, she's an artist in Atlanta as well. She's a painter, collage artist, muralist. She murals all over the city. She just had a solo show. She kept saying, Tokie, you got to get in the game. Tokie, you got to get in the game. She's like, I'm telling everybody, Tokie, when you get on board, it's over with. Tokie, come on. I said, I got to have the last kid. I have to have the last kid before I can shift my brain. And so at that time, in our house, we had 5 kids. And I was drowning in motherhood, momming, wifing, house. And I didn't have a connection to me anymore. And so those things collided. and pushed along with Sashi, of course. And while I was coming out of that momming phase, I had all these ideas in my head. It was all the stuff that I had been researching, all culminating together. And when I started making for me, it was such a clear picture of what I wanted to make, how I wanted to make it, and how I wanted it to look and what I wanted to say. So from that time, I really haven't shifted that foundation of what I wanted to produce, how I wanted it to look. It just has evolved and expanded as I have, of course, the more you do, the better you do. The more you read, the more you know, the more you can layer within your work. And so it's an ongoing process of exploring ideas, an ongoing process of researching. One of the things you were saying from the artist statement is that I've always been drawn to objects, even as a child. I'm drawn to old things. And so I don't question that. I don't try to figure out what the deal is with that. I've gotten to the point where I just listen. And so when I'm picking up an object and it's that need to get it, I don't know what it's going to be used for at the moment. I'll just add it to my collection. And then, you know how you get your best ideas while you're in bed or while you're in the shower, and that in between moment between waking, I'll just get a vision of how I want the objects, the set to look, how everything is going to come together. And I just go to work. I'm really blessed in that I've got great kids who are available models to me. I've got great friends who volunteer their children and say, hey, Tokie. And so I've never really had the situation where I couldn't make what I wanted to make. Everybody's been super supportive. I just had a conversation with my friend Sarita. She does facial products. And I was telling her how supportive everybody really is in our circle. And I think that has been really, really a part of our success. All of us are really supportive women. We push each other. We kick each other's in the butt if we need a good kick in the butt. Like, so what are you doing? Like my friend, that's her phrase. What you doing? And we know when she's saying that, she doesn't really mean what are you doing. She's really checking to see, are you doing what you said you were going to do? My sister Tashi's always, don't let this be Morocco. The Morocco story is that our senior year in school, we had the opportunity to go to Morocco. I didn't want to do the paperwork. I didn't go. It was paid for, free. Everything was an arts exchange. And I didn't feel like doing it. And she did. And I regretted that for the rest of my life, but never again. So we push each other. We take advantage of opportunity. And so that's been really great, this whole journey.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. And we have a couple of comments. Let me get to them. So we have CE Hart saying, "Hey, Miss Rome, it's so awesome to say that we worked at the same school. Your work is amazing."
Thank you. Yes, we worked at South Atlanta together. I still work at South Atlanta, and that's my day job. You know, most artists have a day job. Educators, it's usually where we slot ourselves in so that we can still create. And yeah, I work with her. Yes, that's really great. I'm glad to see you joining us. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. And then we have Sharon, pleased to listen and support your endeavors.
Oh, she's a part of Cystography. I'm a member of Cystography. It is an Atlanta-based photography group for African-American women. And like I said, I've had a tremendous amount of support and encouragement, and Cystography has been a part of that.
Nice. I know you mentioned representation, and you have all of these beautiful Black images in your work. In your opinion, why is representation important?
Well, let's just say when I was growing up, I didn't have it. I I'm an AT alien born and raised. When I had the opportunity to go to the High Museum that one time back in high school, you wander around this museum space and you're with your art or your art class, and you literally don't see yourself on the wall. You don't see yourself or anything that looks like you anywhere in this space. And so there's something that happens to a person subconsciously when they don't see themselves in spaces and places. And so my goal, or one of my goals, has always been to shift that. Like I said, I've got 50 million kids that I birthed and 50 million kids that I teach. And so I want to make sure, and as a part of what I'm doing, I'm shifting that narrative of who they see and how they see themselves. So it doesn't have to be something explicit like this is exactly you should look like. No, it's not about that. It's about seeing yourself and people that look like you, boy, girl, woman, man, in a manner that is elevated so that it can counter that subconscious indoctrination that we experience as a people from media, from history, from things that we have been taught that we need to unlearn. My goal is that I'm unteaching that. It's an unlearning that I hope is happening when people are viewing the work. And it's not just for us African Americans, it's also for other races, persuasions. It's for everybody, because their perception is built off of what they're seeing and experiencing as well. And so if all they're seeing is subjugation, if all they're seeing is people put down and beat down and dragged, then that's going to be the narrative internally that they have of themselves. And so my goal is that they see that there is more to us than what the media will press out or what has been selectively taught and shown in schools or even in their family history. I'm trying to shift that, and hopefully, as they're creating the next generation, as all of us are creating the next generation, we won't have to do that anymore. We won't have to shift that narrative anymore.
Absolutely. What are some of the stereotypes that your work addresses?
So the work is always elevated. They are always unafraid, unabashed. They're never looking broken or bowed down. And I think in a lot of ways, when you do see Africans or African Americans in artwork that was created early on, Renaissance times, before African Americans or Africans were creating artwork that was put in the Western canon, they were always depicted as subjugated. They were the slave. They were the servant. Even when you see photographs back in the day, they're sitting in the middle of dirt with no clothing on, or they're looking emaciated. Like, that is not Africa. That is not the bulk of what we experienced as a people. There's so much more that's being left out. And so the work for me addresses that stereotype. And it also addresses the stereotype that there was no history to us before we came to the Americas. Like, my whole life growing up, we were taught, okay, well, you were brought over as slaves. No, I wasn't. My ancestors were not brought over as slaves. They were kidnapped people. They were farmers. They were hunters. They were gatherers. They were craftsmen. They had all of these skill and trade in life before they were stolen away. And that didn't disappear when they were forced into labor. And so a lot of the research that I do, I'm looking at what religious practices we had. I'm looking at how did those religious practices and cultural practices, how were they maintained in plain sight?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not that those practices disappeared. It's just that our people were really, really smart and really, really strong, because how else did they survive? But
Mm-hmm.
they had the ability to still practice and pass down traditional methods and cultural ways by kind of slotting it in and hiding it within the enforcement of Christianity. What parts of Christianity could they take and utilize and embed their own spiritual practice in, and so that when anybody saw it, they wouldn't know what they were looking at.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's a part of what I'm doing.
Yeah. And one of the things we talked really briefly beforehand about the images, like I love that one of the issues I've had anytime you see like anything from the Victorian era, like you don't see a lot of us unless, like you said, we're in that position where we're, the enslaved, the maid, the person, but these beautiful images. So I think that's also another layer that I appreciate about the work, because we were clearly, not everyone was enslaved, first of all, but just that, removing erasure of Black faces in those type of spaces, and it's just like so unapologetically like we're here, and so I love the space that it takes up.
So one of the things that we know is that what you put attention to, or what people put attention to, people believe to be important.
Mm-hmm.
What you document, people believe to be important. Certain things we know about because somebody documented it, or they
Mm-hmm.
created artwork about it, and therefore it has been deemed important. If we don't document ourselves in an elevated light, and then have that work in spaces and places, museums, collectors whom their collection is viewed upon as, oh, that's that collection.
Mm-hmm.
That museum has that work. When work exists, and not necessarily my work, although that would be, oh, glory come to me. But when you have work in those spaces, it shifts the narrative.
Mm-hmm.
It tells the current generation, one, and the next generation, and the next, and the next, and the next. You're changing history. You're changing time in the future, because that work is existing in those places and spaces. And so if I can have my work placed in museums, in universities, in gallery spaces, then I'm doing something magical. My work is time traveling. It's current right now. It's here right now, but it will be time traveling and shifting the timeline. Even if it's not my work, other people's work that is existing in those spaces, they are changing the view of what is important for the future generations. They are shifting the timeline by getting in those spaces. And I think people don't really take into account how powerful it is, what we see and take in. It's a subconscious thing. We don't have to physically think about perception. It just is. How we perceive something is built subconsciously.
Yes, absolutely. And then it also gives permission for the people coming after us,
Right.
and around us, or people who are like in our midst and saying, I have these ideas, but is it acceptable?
Right.
I remember years ago, before I started showing any of my work, and I would go to different galleries, and I'm like, I don't see anything that I do here, or I don't see images of me here, or I'm very conscious about, the lack of diversity in images, especially photography, but just in art, so when we do that work, when we be bold and push ourselves through whatever challenges to do that work, not only are we creating a legacy for ourselves and those, but we're also creating space and giving permission to those who might say, I don't know, like, yes, go.
Right. When I first started, I knew I wanted photography to be my medium of choice, but I literally questioned myself about, okay, well, is it still photography if I'm manipulating the image? Is it still photography if I take the image and then I sew on it, or I paint on it, or is it, do I have to choose between being an artist and creating artwork for clients? And so there was this internal, and this was the first year, that internal dialogue of, well, do I have to pick? And my people are awesome. They're like, Tokie, you ain't got to pick. What? You can do all of it. And so I have my clients who come for private sessions, and they're getting commissioned artwork that is centered in how I create my artwork. And so I didn't have to pick. I print out the work, and then I sew on the work. I paint on the work. And so I think it's what you're saying, giving yourself permission to execute at whatever level and however you choose to, and not existing underneath these preconceived notions of what it means to be a photographer, or what it means to be an artist, or what it means to be break the mold of what it means to be, and do what your vision tells you you're supposed to be doing. Like, there's something telling you and pushing you inside to do and make and be. And if you listen to these outside forces that have this box of how you're supposed to exist, then you won't operate at your full potential. And I've always been about, I'm going to push, and I'm not leaving anything on the table.
I felt that. Absolutely. I'm going to take a couple comments here. We have Resin saying, beautiful work, beautiful children.
Thank you.
We have Sharon, well said on our prior culture before the objections. Yeah. That's from what you were saying a little earlier. Valerie, hello, Niki and guests. It takes a lot to give of yourself on any level, and it's a beautiful thing to be able to express your art and to create and share your creativity.
Thank you, Valerie. Thank you, Sharon. Thank y'all.
Yes. And then that must be somebody from, Kim J. Glory will come to you. Our legacy is live in your work. It gives others vision.
Thank you.
Yes. And then we have also Kim J saying, grace and guts, not being afraid, being fearless.
Absolutely.
That's right. Go, girl. We also have Tabitha Mudra, who's a photographer and a videographer. Time traveling artwork, loving the thoughtful elevation of this body of work. Also the nod to sisography in all sisography. Thank you. And any and all like-minded support groups. Power her full share. Yes.
Thank you.
We have
my people showing up.
Yes. Thank you for your vision. I always learn something new when seeing through your eyes. Absolutely.
That's my support group. Sharon's my support group. I'm telling you, I have an amazing group of people where we are pushing and pulling on each other. And it's just a beautiful thing. It really is. Everybody is elevating each other.
Yeah. And that's really important. I came across an article, and this is my second time coming across this article. But it was talking about like Basquiat and all those people, and they said they didn't become
I know the article. I shared it too.
Yes. So it's like they didn't become famous by their patrons. They became famous by their friends and support groups who kept pushing and kept conversations going and kept their names out there. And you just kind of build, and having that support is so important, because sometimes we have that gift, we have that talent, but it's hidden. So sometimes you do need that nudge, like your sister and other people, to say, no, get that work out there. And even when you're in it, when you're doing it, sometimes you get tired and you might want to question yourself, or you just need a reminder to say, this is great, thank you, keep going. So that support is so much, is huge. So that's great that you have that around you. That's amazing.
Thank you. It is great.
Yeah, we have Kim J. Hi, Nikki, and thank you. Yes, yes, absolutely. Um, have there been any challenges that you've had to face and overcome with the type of work that you do?
I'm not gonna say I've had challenges in creating the work. I've had challenges balancing everything. Like that would be my biggest challenge. The balancing act of I'm an educator, I'm a mom, I'm an artist, I'm a business owner, it's the juggling act, and yet everything still gets done. So it's long nights. It's not having quote marks here fun like everybody else, because to me creating art or talking to my art peeps, that is fun, but it's you put time in what you value, and you don't feel like you're missing out on something if you're doing something that is your passion. So raising awesome kids is my passion. Being an outstanding educator and creating that next generation, or at least helping create that next generation of artists, art appreciators, creatives, that is my passion. Pushing myself and the artwork that I create is by far my passion. And being an awesome wife is my passion, not to leave him out, but none of this would be possible without my husband, Reginald Taylor, because when I'm immersed, he's making dinner or making sure folks went to bed, or, like I said, the support system is amazing. And so that's my challenge, managing everything, but it's working.
Yeah. Yeah. And I have to always, anytime I see a creative mom, I have to give an extra, just like virtual hug and support, because, it's really hard. Traditionally, the men were the artists because they didn't have the responsibility of, having to take care of kids and clean the house and all those things. The women was expected to do that. And so the men get to be in the valleys and in the, the yard and just paint circles until they have, like, they're world famous. And then, so, and women, on top of that, it's hard being a creative. It's hard being, putting your art there. But then when you're a female, it's even harder. Then when you're a mom, because people feel like, well, you have to be the mom. You can't be the artist and the mom. And so that's something that I just really want to commend you for, because it's hard work, So
Thank you. But it's all worth it. Like I was telling my friend this morning, Sarita, I said, you know what? At the end of the day, I'm grateful. I don't have any complaints. I don't have any regrets. I'm grateful every day for the experiences and the ability that I've been given and the opportunities. And I can't be mad at any of it. I'm grateful. Yeah.
What or who are some of your inspirations?
So I love James Vanderzee. James Vanderzee was a New York photographer, and he was a family photographer. Didn't get the credit that he should have gotten at the time. He wound up getting known later in life, but I loved how he photographed African Americans, and they always looked strong. They always looked statuesque. They are just powerful. And they would be regular folks, but when they came into the studio, he had a small studio, him and his wife ran it. And I just love the imagery that he created. And so I try to know the history, but also of other artists, and I try and be aware of other artists, but what I don't want it to do is to sink in and shift what is coming to me naturally. But I must say, James Van Der Zee definitely is if I can channel James Van Der Zee, then oh wait, I'm good.
Yes, so definitely, I think you're definitely on the right path. Like, your images are beautiful, they're strong, they're inspirational, they're just so layered in so many things. There's pictures I've seen them, and I'm like, I'm gonna go back, and I'm like, oh yeah, I really liked it already. So, what advice would you give someone starting out?
Research. And I say research first because you have to have ideas. Ideas have to come from somewhere. Research, figure out what you're trying to say and say it through your voice. You can figure out the medium. Medium could be words. And when I say medium, I'm talking about what are you using to make with? Are you making with the camera? Are you making with paint and brushes and paper? Are you collaging? Are you printmaking? Are you a sound artist? What are you making with? But first and foremost, what are you saying? And to figure out what you're saying, whatever your initial thought is, try and come away from the surface. Dive deep into whatever that concept or idea is. Do your research. Write down the ideas that come from the research, and that's an ongoing cycle. So that would be my biggest A+. Number one, research and practice. Once you figure out the medium, practice, read, research the techniques, research people who have done what you're trying to do. I teach art in the daytime, so all of what that's the advice that I give to the AP 2D design kids. Research. Now, do they take it all the time? Not really, but
Yeah, absolutely. And they said, nothing's new under the sun. We could reinvent it in different ways. So,
you gotta figure out how you're gonna say it in your voice. Like, what is your perspective? Everybody has a perspective. You're just trying to figure out how to communicate your perspective and your thoughts visually or orally or auditorily, whichever medium you're choosing.
Absolutely. Do you have any self-care practices?
So my husband and I have something called the tap out. The tap out means I can't take it anymore. Mommy's over it. Mommy's not dealing with kids anymore. I'm not dealing with. And all I got to do is pull my tap out card. And from that tap out card onward, I got at least a day where I can go sit in the tub for 2-3 hours. Like, that's my thing. I go sit in the tub. I chill. I relax. I go kiki, scroll into. I veg out. I do like face scrubs. So that's my self-care. Like, I tap out, but I don't tap out a lot because, like I said, I have a lot of balls that I'm juggling in the air. So tap outs happen when I for real need a break. I'm not just taking a break because, it's Saturday. My life is not set up to have a Saturday. No.
Yeah. But I think that's so important. We have to replenish ourselves. We have to give to ourselves. We got to hug ourselves. We got to submerge in some water. Yeah. I can remember when I have an 11-year-old and I love taking baths, and he used to join me in the baths. But at some point he got older and I'm like, I want the tub to myself. And I would lock that door, and he's like,
no, get out of here.
My time. I'm sorry.
Right. And that's what I do. I lock the door because folks are still, mommy. I'm like, no, guys.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So that's amazing. And sometimes when we're doing so much, that's the part that we forget, that time to tap out and just have ourselves to ourselves and
Yeah.
replenish and just like it
Netflix.
will all be there tomorrow.
Right.
Hmm. Absolutely. We have Natalie, who's also an up and coming photographer. I'm loving your work. I would definitely have to check out your work. Thank you for being fearless in maintaining your authenticity. Love your vibe.
Thank you, Natalie. Yay! Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes. And we have Valerie, self love and recharge.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. Yes, that's definitely, I love asking people because I'm like reminding myself, but also like other people who are doing a million and one things to see what they're doing as well. And just also to share with other people, like there's always something that we could pick up and learn from other people. So it's nice to that you're able to share that and that you have that practice. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And it goes back to support. I love how there's so many people around you that's just like we're supporting Tokie. Like that's so amazing.
But it's not a one-way street. They're not just pouring into me. I pour into them as well. So support is a give and take.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody is pouring into you, then you're filled up and you can pour back into them and support one another. I think where things go wrong is when you're in the dynamic of someone is always giving to you, giving to you, giving to you, but you never give back. That does not work. That relationship usually is one-sided and it will usually fall off. So.
Yeah, that's amazing. How can people, well, speaking of support, how can people support your work, connect with you? I know we've been running some of your Instagram and social media. Yeah, how do people connect with you and get more of your work, who are you showing, or book a session?
I'm on IG at Tokie T Studio on Instagram, Tokie T Studio. Same handle on Facebook and Twitter and Clubhouse, all the same handle. My website is TokieTaylorStudio.com. That's www. On the website, you have options of booking your own commission pieces for you, your children, or or for your family. You can also collect the artwork. There's two sections. You can choose to collect artwork, or you can choose to have artwork created for you. I'm also doing something special right now for the holidays. And if you go to Instagram, you scroll through probably like the third post. I've got 2 diptychs that I'm doing for the holidays. And so those are available at a very accessible price point for most people. And they're editioned of 1 through 50. And that's doing really well. So
That's
I
awesome.
appreciate my collectors. I appreciate my families and the children that support the work that I'm creating. So there's several ways you can support me as an artist. Thank you.
Awesome. Awesome. If you had access to a time machine, where would you go and why? Past or the future?
It's a trick question.
Trick question.
I don't have an answer for that.
Oh man.
Go. Oh, boom. I would go and kick it with Octavia Butler. So wherever Octavia is right now, I go kick it with her, but I'd still be alive and her spirit will still be alive, and I would go kick it with Octavia Butler. Octavia Butler is my granny. She just didn't know it. Or she might play auntie. She just didn't know it. I mean, so much of who she was as a person, I grew up with. Because Sasha and I grew up on her books. My aunt gave us an Octavia Butler book when we were about, I don't know, 7 or 8 years old, whatever. We're voracious readers. And so I grew up consuming thoughts and ideas from Octavia Butler. And so that is a real influence on how I see the world, how I take in information, and how I create. It's not just a fictitious book for me, because she's so layered in her social commentary and how she placed people from the African diaspora, how she placed them in these alternative worlds and how they dealt with the situations they were placed in. So Octavia Butler all day.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Awesome.
I think on my feet. What I got?
Yeah, absolutely. It's just been so wonderful to have you on the show and sharing your gifts, your talent, what you're doing, what you're up to. Thank you for saying yes.
So let me also add in Arnika Dawkins. She's a gallerist here in Atlanta. She has a holiday gift guide catalog, and she's also doing an exhibition of the photography artists that are in the holiday gift guide. Please, even if you are not into my work, it's fine. Go check out our holiday gift guide. I am in there, but there are several amazing photographers in there. Creative Souls got a piece in there. Karen and Regis Bethencourt are Creative Soul. I can't pull everybody's name. There's some amazing artists in there.
Yes.
Yeah, go check that out as well. Arnika Dawkins Gallery, and she's on IG as well.
Cool. And I'll see if I have the link, and I'll post it in the comments afterwards. We have another comment at Delita. Wonderful talk, masterclass for sure. Thank you.
Thank you, friend.
And Angeline, love your work. Thanks for your advice and vision.
Thank you, Angeline.
Absolutely. Yeah, so it's definitely wonderful to have you on to share your work. Thank you for saying yes. I'd love to get to know you. I'm still going to be stalking you on Instagram and now on Facebook.
Well, now you don't have to be quiet. You can be like, hey, Toke.
Yes.
What's
up? Say less. I'm going to be there.
I'm showing up as me. This is not a persona.
Yes.
Who you see here is really me. So I'm super friendly. I'm super open. Ask me anything and I'll tell you if I can help.
Yes, absolutely. I appreciate that about you. I appreciate that. I'll definitely be keeping in touch. And so, I want to thank the audience. We have a lot of people on the live today. I want to thank in advance the people who's going to watch it on the replay. And a little mini announcement. So I've been doing this circle since January 2018, nonstop. I think I have a couple of Tuesdays that I've missed, but I'm going to be taking a very short break somewhere towards the end of December. This may be my last live. I'll do some replays and then I'll reboot. We have a lot of wonderful guests lined up already. So just want to make sure everyone's aware of that. So again, I know we have said Tokie's Instagram. So Tokie Studio, TokieTaylorStudio.com is the website. On Instagram and Facebook is Tokie Studio. There's also,
Tokie T Studio, Tokie T.
Oh, Tokie T, yes. Tokie Studio. I'm going to list the links in the comments on Facebook and on YouTube, so you could click them and access them. There's also a link tree, Tokie T Studio, so definitely check it out. There's a lot of links there to check out. And, for those of you who love this program, I'm here every Tuesday, 8:30 to 9 p.m. The Circle is brought to you by Niki Lopez Creative and my project, What's Your Elephant? What's Your Elephant is a project that uses the arts to create safe space to talk about anything unspoken. So if you want more information about my work or the movement, you could go to what'syourelephant.org. You could also go to Linktree / Niki Lopez 19 for some more information. to connect to us. So, Tokie, do you have any final words before we wrap up?
Other than to say thanks, guys, for hanging out with us and listen to me run my mouth about art, life, process, all that good stuff. Thank you, Niki. I really do appreciate you asking me to come and talk and giving me a little bit of your platform. Thank you so much.
Yes, absolutely. It's amazing to have you here. So I will see you all next week, or you may see a rerun of a former show. We have to see that. But you could always find us on Facebook. You could find us on YouTube, as well as all of the, whatever your podcast of choice. This will be uploaded, by the week's end. You could go back and watch this, listen to this, share this. Someone that wants to be inspired. There's some budding photographer in your mix. And what a great gift you could do by just sharing this link and getting them inspired and motivated to start their journey of photography and art. So thank you again, Taylor and Tokie Rome Taylor. I will see you all next week. Good night.
Bye, guys.